What is it? Oh my god, it's the Quest M3 coffee roaster. And this one's right out of the box. I wanted to just do a little tour of the Quest and show the basic features of it without even using it. I just want to go around, do a little tour, point it out. But I think this video is really missing something. That's what we need. Music. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look at the Quest. Here it is. So we're going to take a quick spin around and look at the Quest roaster from all angles. As you receive it, you'll have your cooling tray, some knobs, your trier, your thermometer, and some other tools all separate from the roaster. And you'll need to just assemble those. You'll notice that on the top of the roaster, in the back, you have the door to your chaff compartment. That's where your chaff will be collected. On that and the door in the front, you'll notice the knobs are inverted, so you want to take those off and flip them around. That's just for shipping. Inside your chaff compartment, there's going to be the little screen chaff basket and the little barrier wall, which you're going to take out and drop it into the roaster there and drop your chaff basket in. You'll also find a scoop for loading your green coffee, which is pretty handy. What you'll need to know is that during normal roasting, you'll have that chaff door will be closed. When you dump a batch into your cooling tray, and all the roasted coffee is out, you're going to pick up that tray of roasted coffee, open the door in the back, and you're going to put you're going to drop that into the opening here where you collect chaff, and that's going to pull air through it and cool your coffee. It should cool it in 3.5 minutes, sometimes faster. Spread the coffee out evenly when you do that. That always helps. So in the front of the roaster, you have the small hatch where you're going to be dumping in your green batch. And the scoop is pretty handy for that. One thing you want to know is that there's the air transfer between the front and the back that pulls air through the drum. That tube, it gets pretty hot. When it's cool, you can use it as a handle to move your roaster around. When it's hot, I wouldn't touch it. And when you dump in green coffee, you can get a couple beans into that tube. Try to avoid that. If you do, get them out between batches, because eventually they will burn and create a problem for you. So on the front of the roaster, you're going to see the main things that distinguish this from any other home roaster or make it more like a little professional shop roaster is the trier. The trier is very small, and early in the batch you might have some trouble picking up coffee in it when the coffee's heavy, and as it loses weight it becomes a lot easier. At the end of the roast, when I'm really trying to nail down that final degree of roast, I just take out coffee and dump it into the tray when I'm close. A couple beans that are slightly lighter probably only going to make the cup slightly better. So it's an easier way to look at it than trying to look at it in the trier. But nonetheless, small or not, having a trier to look at your coffee is a fantastic feature. Underneath that, you have the mounting hole for your thermometer. The roaster comes with a dial thermometer that's reading the environment temperature in the drum, the air temperature in the drum. You can replace that with a little thermocouple. Sweet Maria's has an inexpensive digital thermocouple, and if you like to read it a little more accurately, it's also very easy to modify this so that you can have your air temperature through that orifice and then make a small hole or use one of the holes for the viewing window to measure actual bean temperature lower in the drum. We'll deal with that later though. So as mentioned down below in the dumping door where you're going to remove your coffee from the roaster is a nice viewing window, which comes in very handy, especially if you have a good light source looking into that. And the weighted handle needs to be attached to your drum there, so in order to dump the coffee out. The cute thing about this roaster is that it has a little skateboard ball bearing basically for the drum in the front. That is, the drum is attached to the front plate on the roaster, so you can pull out the drum by removing, I believe it's 7 Allen head screws, and it's attached to the front plate, and in the back it's driven by a notched shaft that attaches directly to the motor. It's a really ingenious and simple way to drive the drum and also to maintain it and remove it and clean inside. Turning the roaster around, you'll see, well, you have a protective surface over the drum skin on the cylinder that gets pretty hot. In fact, there's quite a few little places you can burn your fingers on a Quest, so you need to learn to be careful, especially using the trier and the dump chute on the front. And let's get to the good part, which is the controls on the side. You have your electric burner heat element controls in the form of amps, which is 0 to 15 amps. Earlier models that we tested had a lower amperage settings, so they've upped the power to the roaster, and they've also changed the burners to handle that power. So that's been an improvement that, working with the factory, we've had them institute. And because we were initially testing this roaster right in the middle at 7.5 amps. We didn't want to max it out. We didn't find any real benefit in that. But the neat thing about a Quest is it actually has a little bit of oomph to it. It also pulls quite a few watts. It's rated at 1050, and I think it might pull a little more at full heat. So you need to have it, be aware of that. Don't run it on an extension cord. Plug it directly into a wall socket with the cord provided. Then you're going to see the timer knob, and below that the airspeed knob. The airspeed, you may want to mark that with a Sharpie at some point when you get some settings you want, or with some other type of marker, since it's not registered, but it's essentially 0 to 9. We don't know what that 0 to 9 reference is, but we run it at low to middle air speeds in the beginning of the roast, and then when we're cooling, we run it at full air speed. But those are the kinds of things you get to discover about your own roaster. Going to the back, you'll see that there's the vent where the air would exit the roaster. A lot of people have tried to connect a dryer vent to that using a little mounting plate, which you'd have to make. So we'll cover that later, some ideas of if you want to vent your roaster. It will change the roast dynamic, so you want to keep that vent real open, wide circumference or wide diameter tubing, and a short distance. One of the things underneath, you'll see the computer fan, as I describe it, that which is kind of neat. I think that if you were in a remote place and you needed to fix something on a Quest, you could probably find parts from something else that would work quite well. It's really easy to access the interior of the Quest. Just to get a set of Allens, and there's any part of this roaster can be taken off. It's extremely simple. There's no circuit board. There's no fancy electronics. It's extremely easy to swap out burners or make changes to the roaster as you see fit. Behind the fan, underneath the roaster, is a small hole, and that accesses the space between the drum and the outer skin of the cylinder. It's important every roast, every couple of roasts, to get in there and clean that out, because chaff and coffee can fall between the drum plates down into that space, and that would incinerate pretty quickly. I use a shop vac every 2 to 3 roasts, and I just put it back there and pull out anything that falls in that space. And on the badge side, you have the ratings for the Quest. I tried to run this in Europe on 50 hertz, and that meant the drum speed was slow, and it doesn't work too well. So if you're going to do anything strange and run it off of different voltage, you want to make sure the hertz are correct. Since we don't yet have any drum speed control on the Quest, you have control of just about everything else. You've got this beefy computer cord. Again, don't use extension cords with it. And there's a resettable circuit breaker. So that's pretty much the Quest. Just taking a look around, and we're going to make some more videos of the roast process in it. And thanks a lot.